Our first topic is making culture a competitive advantage. And this talk is going to be given by Steve Cadigan. He is the founder of Cadigan Talent Ventures. You may know Steve. He's given several talks in the Valley and has touched hundreds of Silicon Valley companies. He is the former head of talent at LinkedIn. He grew the team from 400 all the way to 4,000. He's going to talk a little bit about that today. You may not know that he actually has 30 years of talent management experience in 6 different industries. So it's not just technology. His experience spans across a variety of different fields. In fact, he was recognized by Forbes and by Wall Street Journal for his outstanding work integrating companies post-acquisition at Cisco. He's also a very, very nice person to talk to and hear from. So please welcome Steve Cadigan, culture uncle of Silicon Valley.
Thank you. All right. I have to apologize before I get started today that I live with 3 children, also known as germ-carrying vehicles. And we spent 8 hours driving to Lake Havasu a few days ago, and I managed to retain some of the flu bug that's going around. So I have some tissues over there. I'm going to probably clear my throat more times than I want to, so I'm apologizing for committing all those presentation violations before I even get started. Well, it's a real pleasure to see you all here because you just navigated the toughest decision of the day. Right? You had the business track or the HR track, and that's an impossible choice, right? Aren't we business people? Like business track, HR track, which way are we going to go? But I'm glad you decided to join me today because this is really mainly a session around telling a story of an experience I had around having to try to find a way to compete for talent in an impossible environment back in 2010 in Silicon Valley when we were trying to grow a company against some giants and some big brands. And I think it's increasingly something that I'm speaking to more and more organizations about today is how do you stand out in a crowd of impossible choices that people have to make today when they're deciding where to work and where to stay? And I think, you know, as talent ambassadors, all of us have this big challenge that we all face. And if you're faced with that in a company that no one's ever heard of, and you're not sure why the founders chose to name the company what they did because no one really gets it, you're faced with an even bigger challenge. But before I get started, I just want to get a pulse of the audience here. How many of you actually live in the work in the Bay Area? Okay. How many of you are from outside the Bay Area but in the US? All right. We've got some good weather for you here. How about outside of the States in Europe? Okay, welcome. We're going to lose you around 2 o'clock today. How about from Asia Pacific? All right, great. We'll lose you around 4. Well, great. Let's get started. We're going to have a chance to have some Q&A at the end. I've got about 30 minutes to drive through here, and I hope that we have time for some questions afterwards. To set the context, one of the realities I think we face today is best addressed in a question which was asked by the founder of LinkedIn, Reid Hoffman, when I was sitting next to him. I had the great pleasure of working with him for a few years at LinkedIn, and one time he was asked in a press conference as we were trying to build LinkedIn, like, Reid, like, you've got this really interesting business model. It's kind of a recruiting business. It's a subscription business. It's kind of a marketing network. Like, who's your main competitor? Who keeps you up at night? And Reid's answer to that question was, the company I worry about most is the company that hasn't been invented yet. Right? The game changer. Think for a second right now, how many of these unicorn companies, how many of these companies with billion-dollar valuations existed more than 10 years ago? Anyone know how old Facebook is? Less than 15 years old. Anyone know how old Uber is? Someone's got to know. I don't. Is it 10 even? Twitter? Lyft? Instagram? All these other organizations grew out of nothing. And I think the challenge for us is business is changing so fast, your organization is going to be under attack, and you have to build your moat and you have to build your value proposition really quickly. And so this concept of culture being relevant and being important is more important than ever because who you are and what you're about is the biggest asset you have to differentiate yourself in a highly competitive market. where your business is going to be under attack and there's lots of different opportunities and choices people have to make, more so than ever before. And as you all know, winning today is more challenging than it's ever been. The future is incredibly hard to predict. How many people here really sit down and put a 5-year plan and say, yeah, I have a lot of faith. This makes sense. Why do we do that? It's like we're lucky if the 1-year plan makes sense, right? And I think this is really one of the essences of why BetterWorks, for example, is so important, because we live in a frenetic environment right now where things are moving and changing so fast. The concept of even having an annual employee survey is almost a joke, because we need that feedback and we need to move quicker and we need to be able to communicate and adjust and tack very quickly. The other thing from a business point of view is the barrier to entry is lower than ever before. We're sitting in the boardroom at LinkedIn. We're only about 6 years old at the time as a company, had about 1,000 people. And even back then, 2010, the founders were sitting around saying, you know, if we were to build this company today, it would cost a fraction of what it would cost us to build it now. Because you have all these other resources in the cloud and how Amazon Data Services, for example, you don't have to buy all this infrastructure to be able to build something and compete at a massive level. And so I think, it puts an enormous amount of pressure on how we're able to compete. And I had the great privilege and honor. How many people here actually are from LinkedIn right now? Let me see. Okay, great, awesome. How many people used to work at LinkedIn in here? All right, great. Well, I may ask you for some embellishment or some, hallelujah, or what he said at certain points as we go through some of this stuff. But I had a great opportunity to build an amazing company. And it was a real transformation journey for me and many of the people, and it still is, hopefully, for a lot of folks. But one of the really interesting parts of this journey was that a lot of the success was very unexpected. And I'm going to give a chance for you to hear some insights, which not a lot of people appreciate, because they think, oh, Steve, LinkedIn, I mean, it must have just been raining money the day you walked in the door. And I'm like, you have no idea. When I walked in the door, I was breaking up fights between hiring managers that were tugging on resumes, saying, I saw that candidate first, they're mine. And they were terrified that the requisitions were going to be cut off and they weren't going to be able to hire people. I was consoling managers who were literally crying coming back from a job fair saying, there's all these people standing outside the Facebook booth. No one came to see us. And I go, well, look what you're wearing. I don't know that I'd want to see you. What kind of giveaways did we have? And they were like, they have nothing, and it was horrible. It was hard. It was brutal. And I'm going to cover some of that with you, because that challenge really forced us to raise our game. And if some of you are facing some of what we faced, I hope some of these stories and lessons can be relevant for you if you're facing something similar. And by no means do I think what we came up with or how we did this is the only way to do this, because I think there's a lot of ways to compete. But I want to show you how we had one weapon that we could control that didn't cost us anything, and that was how we wanted to manage our culture and how we wanted to nurture that. So if I think about building LinkedIn as a world-class company, I'm going to start with the end. My old boss, Jeff Weiner, used to say, Steve, whenever you tell a presentation, you got to do it reverse pyramid. Like, give them the end story and then build from there. So here we go, Jeff. If you sing this video later, you'll know that your wisdom stays with me today. From the point that I joined the company in 2009, we had about 400 people. When I left at the end of 12, we had about 4,000. It was one of the top IPOs of the past decade, still is, in terms of value creation and investor equity that was created. One of the amazing achievements when you think about that kind of growth is that growth was realized while we were doubling the employee population. The average tenure in the time that I was there, the 4 years I was there, was 9 months. And it just made new hire orientation so easy. Welcome to the company, you're just like everyone else. They just got here. No one knows where the restroom is, but everyone does know where the free food is. So just stand up at 12 and follow the crowd. But I think what also resonates, and this is something for those of you that are tackling this millennial beast and trying to understand how I'm going to tame this for my advantage, I think people want to build culture today. They don't want to be told what it is. I think they want to contribute and they want to have a hand in shaping the clay. And the great news was at that time we had a chance to shape the clay. But we also had a chance to disrupt an industry. Don't get a chance to do that many points in your career. That was amazing. And for me, it was a kind of a dream come true. Here's an HR guy working in a company with an HR product. I'm able to help inform the product managers on how to make the product better. I'm helping the sales guys close deals, flying all around the world. Had a chance to sit in the boardroom of Walmart. Any of you been to, anyone here from Walmart before I start talking dirty about them? No? Okay. Sitting in the boardroom of Walmart, being asked, what is LinkedIn? And why would we want to use it? And going there and trying to talk to them about not fear of LinkedIn, fear of the internet, which was a pretty powerful experience. But at the end of the day, as you may have read in the news, LinkedIn was acquired by Microsoft for about $26 billion, and they were only 13 years old. Phenomenal, by any measure. So wow, that looks like it was pretty simple, right? Pretty easy to do, you know, obviously a great product, even a silly guy like me could sell that product. But actually there were some pretty challenging things when we look back on it, which was how do you build a company when everyone's recruiting all the time? We had a very, very thin recruiting organization. Very talented, but very thin. And hiring managers were expected to carry that weight. But how do we grow a company and grow the revenue and close deals and close business and build new product when most of our leaders are really recruiting all the time and doubling? And everyone's new and everyone's learning how to operate in a company as the policies and practices keep changing all the time. And how do you avoid from suffocating the weight of your own success? And by that I mean just the sheer complexity and the chaos and the confusion of all the growth. It's not easy. Having worked my whole life prior to getting to LinkedIn in big, big companies, I thought, how hard can this be? You know, I've learned all the mistakes that leadership can make. I've seen the worst of corporate America. I've made a lot of mistakes. I'm just going to go in and apply all the stuff I learned. How hard can this new company stuff be? It's really easy. Everyone's kind of cool, young. They, you know, just put a few ping pong tables in the corner, have beer on Fridays. It's going to be a walk in the park. And then I walked into my first exec staff meeting and almost had to break up a fight around performance management. No, we're going to show ratings. No, we're not going to show ratings. No, there needs to be a 3 decimal point rating. No, we should do it once a year, twice a year. We should never do it. We should rate them but not tell the employees. And I had my Yahoo refugees over here, and I had my Google refugees over here, and I had a few Adobe refugees and a few people from Intel, and we're like, no, we're not going to do that. I'm like, whoa. You guys we haven't even come with a philosophy around performance management. You guys have been around 6 years. I'm like, and that's just the beginning. How many layers should we have? Should we have manager, director, VP, CEO, or should we have employee, lead, junior manager, associate manager, manager, senior manager, junior director, associate director, director, senior director, VP, executive VP, senior VP, CEO? And we fought about that. We fought about that. And that's a whole nother seminar for another day. But here's the irony. This success really wasn't supposed to happen if you look at all the things on paper, and I'll cover some of that with you. We had a couple of challenges. First off, the complexity and the sheer growth and all the pain that comes with that is a big problem. And saying that we grew from 400 to 4,000 doesn't, in the time that I was there, doesn't even begin to tell a story. If you're in one location, 400 to 4,000, that's one thing. But we went from 3 offices to 26, and from 2 countries to 17 countries. And those of you that have done that or are in that situation right now, you have enormous tax of complexity, of communication, of all kinds of things that makes it really challenging to be able to orchestrate magic from that. You know, it all starts when you have the company meeting for the first time, right after you open the office in Australia. And they're like, that time doesn't work for us. Well, no, I mean, someone like, that time doesn't work for us. I'm like, well, what do you mean? Oh, yeah, that's right. Or the guys in Europe, like, hey, we're going to have it on Friday afternoons. When I walked in, the company meeting was Friday afternoons. And Europe's like, what's up with that? That doesn't work for us, you know? And so you have all these challenges. We also had the challenge of we had 4 business lines. And we weren't really clear which was the priority for us. The hiring business seemed to be going well. By the way, we didn't start off thinking we're going to be a hiring company or a company that was helping with recruiting. We had a marketing business, we had a subscriptions business also, and we also had a sales business as time went on. That was challenging and hard. And how do you stay focused, especially when everyone's new? But the biggest challenge for us was the competition for talent. And this one exists even today for everybody. And we sat in the shadows of a company you guys might have heard of in Mountain View, Google. You guys heard of that company? Yeah. Well, good luck trying to hire them when they're counter-offering people that you want to go after in the $1 million range. No joke. That happened to me several times. And how many of you have faced that competition? Yeah, okay. It's not fun. And all these other brands that give all these great signing bonuses and all these incredible perks. And you get people coming back saying, hey, I was just having lunch over at Google and Lady Gaga was over there. And I'm like, well, my mom was over for lunch today and we had a really good lunch. And that was the reality that we're trying to face. And we're really terrified because we thought Facebook was going to wake up one day, especially after we filed to go public. And back then it was before you had the secret way to file to go public. This was more of an open disclosure. And we gave away the secret sauce. When you file an S1, it's basically, here's how we make money, here's how many customers we have, here's our revenue stream, and so forth. And we were worried that Facebook would see that we were monetizing our members about 5 times as much as they were. And we're worried, like, well, they're going to wake up and say, we should be Workbook. And we're like, oh, shit. We didn't want that. And Google introduced Circles right around the time we were building. Cisco introduced the Human Network ad campaign, and we're like, uh-oh. If we don't build this fast, someone else is going to take it away from us. We're also worried about Google because guess where all the traffic to our site was coming from? A Google search. You think Google knew that? Yeah, they did. What if they wanted to tweak the inner workings of search results so that LinkedIn wasn't there? We're dead. It's like turning the street signs another way and directing people a different direction. So we were worried that we needed to build this fast or we were going to die. And we had to build it fast in a very challenging environment because there was a war for talent going on between Google and Facebook at the time. But we were able to win. Despite all those challenges, we were able to win. But wait, there's more. And you're like, Steve didn't used to have gray hair before he worked there? Yeah. Here's an untold story about LinkedIn. Not a single person in our executive team had ever done what we did. No one had ever taken a company public before. Our CEO had never been a CEO before. Our head of finance, legal, sales, product, engineering, no one had ever grown a company and had an exit. We had no right to do what we did. No one had ever been in the recruiting business before. I had done more recruiting. No one on the exec team other than me had actually worked in another country for any extended period of time. We were rookies. The business model was complicated. It wasn't a simple model. It wasn't a one product, we're going to have a website and we're going to sell ads. It wasn't. We had to engage people. We had to ask people to spend time on the site for us to be able to monetize. Very different. And as I told you, we had a lot of competitive threats. It was painful, 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 painful. And the only lesson I can tell you on this before we get into some more of the stories around how we differentiated is the fact that we'd never done this before motivated us. We wanted to do something different. We wanted to do it our way. We wanted to set a course that had never been achieved before, and we really wanted to plant our flag. How many of you have been applying for a job in your career and had someone say, well, Susan, we're a semiconductor business. I know you've got experience in human resources, but you've never worked in semi, so I'm sorry, but we're going to have to pursue other candidates. And you're like, semi? People are people, right? I mean, I get calls say, oh, Steve, we got this company, and they're going public, and, you can help us out here. It's a great opportunity for you. And I say, you don't need to have done that to be able to do it. And the fact that you haven't done it, I think, makes you super hungry and super aggressive and ambitious and excited about wanting to achieve that. Having done it, I'm like, oh boy, I don't know if I want to do that again. That was rough. That was really tough. So I'm going to tell you about an inflection point that we hit as an organization in 2010. We're sitting at about 1,500 people. And the biggest impediment to our growth was hiring top talent. Our main business product was a recruiting product. And oh, by the way, I had handcuffs on. We were the only company on the planet that could not use search firms. Couldn't do it. Again, don't even think about that, Steve. We're LinkedIn. We got to use our product. I'm like, we're not closing candidates. People are turning down our offers. We're getting outworked in the market here. How are we going to do that? So I basically had a performance review every day in front of the company. We started putting our recruiting results out there, what the pipeline was, what the close rate was, what the referral successes were, and the failures. But this was a huge pain point for us. And we were sitting around looking at all the offer declines that we were having, going, how is this happening? And it was forcing us to sort of get together and go, my gosh, you know, we believe in what we're doing. We believe we have something special. We're not able to close people fast enough. And if we don't do this, we're really cooked. And that's a very, very hard position to be in. And we're talking about heated executive meetings that we had and really stressful people. And you were looking at an engineering team that's killing themselves, working 24 hours. I remember seeing another email hit my desk at 2 in the morning from the release team going, hey, great job, release team. We just got that out Saturday, 2 in the morning. So this is not going to sustain. We're going to lose people if we still have to keep releasing at 2 o'clock on Saturday morning. And you know, I could tell you stories and stories and stories. But it forced us to get together as a leadership team and sit around and say, okay, what assets do we have? Why does someone want to work here? And if you're facing that challenge of, man, we're just not closing people, or we're just not able to get the top level talent that we need at the pace that we need, the first place to start is, why does someone want to work here? What's special about you? And what assets do you have that can support that? And I'd been recruiting for about 25 years and had never asked the question before, why does someone want to work here? Because it's usually the same story, right? Oh, we're a great company, we've got great leaders, got a great product, we're going to make a lot of money. You know, why wouldn't you want to come work here? But that wasn't working for us. I remember sitting around one day with the leadership team going, we lost another technical top talent candidate. And I think it was our head of marketing goes, well, what does technical talent really want? And I said, well, they want to be around a technology luminary. We don't have any luminaries. Any of you guys luminaries? No, don't have any luminaries. Any of you know any luminaries? Yeah, we know this guy, James Gosling. And I go, the Canadian actor? They go, no, that's Ryan Gosling. Okay, who's James Gosling? Oh, he's the founder of Java. Oh, how do you know him? Well, he hangs out at the corner bar down here in Mountain View with his buddies on Friday, and they drink beer and talk about, you know, Java and the future of coding. Oh, how about we ask him to come over with his buddies over here and we supplied the beer? All right, let's do that. So we started to do that. And then all of our engineers were like, this is awesome. We got to invite all of our friends. And then all their friends from that company next door, Google. And then we started to measure our success by how many bicycles from Google were left in our parking lot every Friday. I'm not joking. That was a good metric for us. But we sat around and we started thinking about what are we working on that matters? Well, we're helping people find their dream jobs. Is that kind of a good thing? Yeah, it is. All right, so let's talk to that person that's looking to go into one of those social networking sites and ask them, all right, so listen, would you like to go help kids develop their short attention span capability, or would you like to help people find their dream jobs? I don't know, what do you want to do? You want to go work for that hot game company over there and help kids not do their homework, or do you want to help kids find their dream job? Do you want to be engineer number 7,000 over at Google and work on projects you're not really sure that you're going to get assigned, or do you want to be engineer number 50 here? Put your fingerprints on helping people find their dream jobs. And we realized that career transformation was a very powerful thing. It was more powerful than any other story that any other organization could play, we felt. And we started to believe it. We said people really, at first, I mean, our challenge was we weren't sure we were worthy for top people to come work for us. We didn't, you know, a lot of people say, we got to go hire top tech talent. If you don't believe top tech talent should be there, well, then you're in trouble. And we weren't sure that we really felt, we're kind of shy. Do we really deserve to be a top company? Can we really get the best people? And we started to believe, no, we are worthy, that we're working on something that really matters. And asking why would someone kind of work here and what really matters, what assets do we have? We're working on career transformation. And that's when things became powerful. Because we hadn't really sorted out what our culture was, to be honest. We kind of knew culture was important, except for our CEO, Jeff, who's like, oh, when I see those posters of those other companies and culture, I want to throw up in my mouth. He hated it. He had such a horrible experience with culture at Yahoo where he said, the posters said that, but leaders did this. I don't want to be that company. I don't want to be tied down. He goes, culture is right here. And I said, all right, Jeff, we don't have to do posters. We don't have to have the badge there. We don't have the badge that says, and if you were wearing a badge right now, I can tell you I'm going to nail 5 of the things on that badge. Honesty, integrity, customer number 1, teamwork, results driven, right? Whose culture has all that stuff? Bang, I nailed that. All right, we don't have that stuff. So what are we? Who are we about? What is our culture? Our culture is career transformation. What's the value proposition for our customers? Career transformation. That moment was powerful for us. We sat there and saying the same culture that we want to build here, what we want for our employees is them to come here and have the best career experience they've ever had is exactly what we want for our customers. And that was the moment where you said, finally, I can be in the elevator and someone asked me, hey, what's your culture? And I've got one word, transformation. I don't have to worry, oh, hold on a second. Customer number one, honesty, integrity, results driven. It was powerful. For those of you that are in a place where that's still malleable for you and you still have a chance to think about it, when what the customer sees and what your employee sees are the same, it really becomes powerful because it's such an easy grok. It's a full metaphysical understanding and awareness that gives you a lot of magic. And so we started to unlock magic and we started to say, how do we deliver on career transformation? Like, what does that look like to us? I can't put the on-site childcare center or do what Google does and give you a nanny for a year and build you a house in the back of yours for your in-laws. I can't do that. I can't give you the sushi chef. But how about if I try to commit to you that when you're working for me, if you want to become a head of HR, you want my job someday, I will work so hard to give you all the experience and exposure and opportunity that you're going to get to where you want to get to. Is that going to work for you? And so we started closing people with pay cuts, people taking on less money, people who wanted that mission of helping people solve their career challenges, to open the door of transparency around, do you really need a business degree to be an entrepreneur? Do you really need to have gone to XYZ school to become successful in this field? And started ripping apart all these paradigms and untruths about what a career, how rich it could be, and what experiences inform really great things. And that got really, really powerful for us. And asking those questions and telling our people we want this to be the best job that you ever had, and getting everyone engaged in that. And we reinforce that by doing something I think is essential today if you want to build your culture into a weapon that's going to help you, propel you to be successful. You got to have a listening strategy today. And that's not the annual survey. Some companies I know, how many people here gauge mood sentiment every day? Anyone do that? Okay, we've got some early adopters. Do you send a caricature? Do you send a smiley face, sad face? Daily? Wow, powerful. How many people do employee surveys more than twice a year? Okay, great. There's a lot of tools out there right now, a lot of technologies. I think we got to listen because things are changing fast. Competitive knowledge and advantage comes from information flow. I believe the leaders of tomorrow, the successful leaders, are going to be information brokers more than decision makers because there's so much flow. We've got to help stream it and direct it and get the right people together that need to know. But we listened and we asked a question, two questions actually. The one that was most powerful for us, are you as productive as you can be? And if you're not, what's getting in the way of your productivity? Tell us the story. I never asked that of an employee before at any company I've ever been at. Don't know why. The second one is an obvious one. Is your career tracking at the pace you think it should be? Are you headed in a direction that you think is favorable for you and where you want to be? Never asked that before because I worked at places I knew the answer and I didn't want to hear that answer. I couldn't change a lot of things. Here we asked, and I think we built trust, and I think we built respect, and we think we built a real cohesion around the organization. And people started believing that, okay, the company really matters. And then we started doing some pretty interesting things. We started coming up with this concept called a career burst. And it all started with the new grads in sales. And those of you that can relate to this story will appreciate this. So I'm sitting in an all-hands meeting, and the CEO, Jeffson, talking in front of the company, and we just had this motivational exec staff meeting around, we want this to be the best job anyone's ever had, and we're going to open the doors for people to transfer around and kick out that whole 1 year before you can apply. We're not going to do that. And so Jeff's like, we're going to do all this stuff, and I have a bunch of new grads from sales say, we want an international assignment. And I go, oh no, what has Jeff done? I said, we've got a problem. It's called immigration. I can't send you anywhere because you have no experience. And by the way, that's the way it works here in the US. You have no experience. And But what I can do is I can send you on a business assignment, a career burst. You want to go to Australia for a week and learn how they work over there and help them onboard some new employees and help them recruit and learn some new systems and products? Boom. And we started to build this flywheel of new experiences and opportunities. A couple of stories I'll share with you. We had a guy, Michael Nguyen. Michael, amazing guy, amazing accountant. He was happy. I know it's hard to imagine as an HR person. Our natural born enemy, finance people, they're happy. But he was happy, he was good, he was effective. But all Michael talked about was a doggy diner he drove around on the weekends. And so when we started this new food program, knock, knock, who's there? Michael, yeah, hey, it's me, Steve, we got this food program. You wanna help us out with that? What do you mean? Well, you love food, right? You love those relishes you're always bragging about? That peach one that you told me about last week? Okay, do you wanna run our food program? You do that? Tears. You do that for me? Armin Vatanian, another guy, an accountant, happy, believe it or not. Two of them. Steve Sordella was doing something great over there. Armin comes to me in tears, training for the Armenian Olympic team as a marathon runner. Steve, I have to tender my resignation. I've got to. How's that, better? All right, there we go. I'm gonna hold that for the rest of the show. So Armin comes to me and says, I have to tender my resignation. That's because, oh, here we go. If we have a back mic, that would be helpful. I can't train and do my job. My job is very demanding. My training's very demanding. I need to sleep. I can't sleep on this job. I felt really bad about that. But I knew we're in a startup, you're not gonna get a lot of sleep in a startup. It's gonna have to happen. I can't let you resign. You're too important to us. And you are a cultural, you're the guy in the picture, Armin. I said, hey, listen, we're thinking about starting a wellness program here and having like a fitness center. And we also need some help in real estate. If you're willing to do those, I'm willing to give you sort of a reduced schedule. And I'd love to keep in, thank you so much. To which point he started crying again. I go, God, what's the deal with all the crying, guys? And guess what both Michael and Armin did after that happened? They got on this site. Have you guys heard of Twitter? Yeah, well, they blasted it out to everybody. And then there's Catherine sitting in business development. Catherine was a star on our business development team. And she overheard a meeting happening in a conference room. Hey, there's these guys that were planning on the international team. We are going to launch in Japan. There's 2 people that have a LinkedIn profile in Japan because they don't like really changing jobs over there and they don't really use their names, and we got to go figure that out. And so she knocks on the door. Hey, it's Catherine. I'd like to see if there's an opportunity for me to help you on that Japan project. And they're like, oh, thanks, Catherine. We've got it. We've got a really good team on this, and we're putting our plan together. We'll get back to you if there's an opportunity. She goes, no, I'm fluent in Japanese. And they said, you are? And she said, it's in my LinkedIn profile. And they're like, oopsie. Well, cool. How about if you're the temporary country manager over in Japan and you go take your kids over there and they get the experience you had of learning a second language? Would that work for you? Yeah. Think of the message that sends to the women in your organization when you send to, apologies to all the Japanese here, male-dominant culture. We send a woman over there. What message are you sending? Positive? Game on? Yeah. And she did amazing work for us over there. Those are the stories that we started to flywheel around that. And career velocity mattered to us. Still does. But those are the roots. We can't control, I can't pay for those kinds of benefits that these competitive companies have. I don't have this, Death Star mothership Apple headquarter campus that's under construction. I've got this, pathway in the swamps of Mountain View you can walk at lunch. And there's this kind of shoreline amphitheater you can check out if you want to. But we can help change lives if you're up for that. And we can help you get to where you want to go. And so we had this brand problem. And as the brand problem started to surface again with the candidates that we were losing, we started to say, we need to tell the world how great we are. And this whole concept came up called InDay. And if you have a company name that could change, if you do have a choice, come up with something with an in it, because every t-shirt you can imagine, it's Innovation Day. Are you in? Get in it. Are you into it? Like, I can't even count the number of t-shirts. I mean, Silicon Valley is more like a wardrobe, not a job, right? With all the t-shirts. But what started to happen as we started to get real focused around who we are and why someone want to work here, and everyone on leadership teams like, yeah, we're going to make this the best place anyone's ever worked, word started getting out. People started to come to us saying, can I talk to your employees? We're like, who's calling? It's Deepak Chopra, Steve. Deepak who? Chopra. Remember him? Oh, yeah. He wants to come here? Why? He's working on wellness, global wellness. He wants to talk to us and understand how he can leverage LinkedIn for all of his followers. And he wants to learn from information that's out there. Okay, he wants to talk to us, really? Okay, Steve, someone else is online. Who is that? Susie Orman. Who's that? I've got a good investment strategy. What does she want to talk to me about? Susie Orman wanted to come in. And on and on and on. Some amazing people. We never got Lady Gaga when I was there, but we started to get guest speakers. And I've always worked at places where, okay, we're going to have a speaker of the month, but it's got to be tied to, key company objective number 3 over here. And we didn't need that for these. We wanted inspiration. We wanted time where you can just soak it in and feel excited and motivated and take a breath, take your mind off of something and get inspired. Work with people you've never worked with before. Help a veteran upgrade their LinkedIn profile so they can be successful in a new career. And we've started to look at jobs more like adventures. And I think that's how this world is going to evolve. The job is going to end and it's going to be replaced by adventure. And this virtual cycle was created. And so we've got a lot of new assets today to help us listen, to help us connect, and help us communicate more effectively. You got to have a listening strategy, because your people are going to tell you what you can do to make it great. People like, how do I unlock the millennial riddle? Ask the millennial and have them be part of what you're creating. All these inspirational speakers I was telling you about just kept this incredible virtuous cycle going. I remember walking the campus with Jeff on in days where one Friday every month, I think it still is, you can kind of do whatever you want, with an orientation towards connecting with other people, working on something that really makes your heart sing. And we're walking the campus with Jeff, and he was almost, yes, in tears. Again, another person in tears. He goes, Steve, I never thought culture could be this powerful. I never thought it could make this much of a difference. And I said, Jeff, without even the posters too, check it out. And he's like, yeah. The path forward for all of you thinking about how to leverage this is recognize this is not about ping pong. It's not about foosball or beer. It's really about creating an amazing experience. Your employee is your brand. What your employee experiences and the stories they create and tell the world is recruiting gold. And I think we're moving as a function into a marketing role, which is really exciting for us, where we're architecting and creating some great experiences for people that can really make a difference for them. And so I'd encourage you to think about that. Think about the reality that the world is far more transparent. People know what it's like to work in your organization. And if you're not amplifying opportunities for them to tell stories, they're going to tell stories. Help feed that hunger. And it's more critical than ever because the world is so transparent, it's almost a necessity right now. So in summary, last couple of slides, and then I do have some time for questions, those of you that may have some or comments. I think we have some mics. Where are the mics? Oh, I'll identify the mics in a second. But culture can really be your competitive advantage. I always knew culture was important. I didn't know it could be this powerful. If you don't have the dollars, you don't have the benefits, you don't have the brand name, find a way to tell your story. I was working with a sewage company in London last year, and the sewage industry is going through a privatization, and they'd invited me to come and help them talk about their brand. They're like, Steve, we're worried about recruiting now. We don't have a hostage market anymore or a monopoly as a government agency. We're going to have to compete with other companies. And how do we get them excited about sewage? And so we sat down and I said, how come I'm just talking to the recruiters? Where's the marketing team? And they said, what do you mean? I said, well, this is all about your brand, isn't it? Why don't we get the marketing people in here? And so the marketing people, I asked them, so what kind of organization are you? They said, oh, we're about health, making the world safe for children. I go, bam. recruiters, check it out. That's what we're talking about here. That's aspirational. That's differentiating. Now you're going to have to find out how you make the world healthier than your competitors. And how about you really focus on a healthy workplace and you connect those two so that the culture and the employee experience and the customer experience are similar. But for you to start that journey, it really begins with an active listening strategy. And in closing, I'm going to tell you, I never thought we were going to be able to beat some of those bigger brands, but we did. And at one point in 2012, right after we went public, we had such a sales recruiting push that was successful that Morgan Stanley upgraded our stock, saying LinkedIn is amazing at hiring and onboarding new employees. So amazing that we're upgrading their share price. My favorite result of that story was that it was right during our annual performance review process, and my turn was up with Jeff. And so I walk into my boss's office, and I hadn't done any of the, I can't remember what tool it was, whether it was unsuccessful factors or Halogen or I don't know what it was. But I hadn't done what I was supposed to do, and Jeff hadn't done his review either. So I was like, if he's going to call me out, he hasn't done his. And he says, so Steve, I noticed you haven't done the review. I go, oh no, I've got my review right here. And I had a printout of that story, and I slid it across the table. I go, there's my performance review right there. And he has this like Cheshire cat grin grew on his face. He's like, wow, you just cut off half hour of my day back. Thank you. High-fived him and walked out. And that changed our next performance review process to be, if you can get what your team did in the newspaper, then you can get out of having to do your review, which was awesome. So I don't know if Chris is going to take that one on board or his leadership team's listening. But anyway, the other thing which I think is inspiring for all of us is you can be world class as a first timer. Trust me, I had no business doing that. You can do it. You got to believe, you got to be real laser focused, you got to have clarity on your leadership team, and you got to know what assets you have. And we were able to do that. And we still didn't, pay above all these big giants for talent, and we were able to be successful. And the last thing is, we could talk for hours and days around culture and should it be bottoms up, top down, from the side, from the outside in, inside out, however you want to do it. There's no right or wrong way here. I think it really has got to be consistent with your own organization. It's a real weapon today that you can't ignore. And the fact that the employee experience is your brand should inform how you think about that experience. And everyone has that megaphone in their pocket to be able to make a difference. So I want to thank you for tolerating my hacking, and I guess we'll take a few questions right now. Anyone? Yes, back there. Go ahead and I'll repeat the question. Okay. All right, great. Question is, had a lot of offices, how do you keep the culture the same in all the offices? Anyone have an answer to that one? I hear a lot of you don'ts over here. Hey, Scott. Yeah, I think the answer is, the truth is, geographies are different, national cultures are different. They're already going to be different in other locations, even in the US, and once you get outside, there's obvious differences. I think I have a high tolerance for microcultures, and there's a few things that are really sacred, and you try to hold on to those, but you have to let people express themselves in the way that they express themselves. And those of you that have worked in the US and gone to Australia, you know what I'm talking about. Okay? It's different. They may kind of look the same, but no, they're kind of different. And so that's okay. And hold on to the few things that you think are important. Like career transformation, that's not going to change from country to country. People being able to move around. Some countries are a little bit more uncomfortable with that. I won't mention any names, Germany. But I think that's okay. But it's a great dilemma I think we all face. How do we deal with that? I think embrace localization, but say, holding some close things really, really tight. Other questions? Yes, up here. Okay, how do you get leadership commitment and buy-in so that everyone is sort of living the culture? That's a great question. The way you don't do it is have it be an HR initiative that we're going to have a new culture. And HR is going to drive it. I was at AMD one year and we had walk the talk, and I had to hand out wind up chattering teeth. Walk the talk. I'm not kidding you. was like, can someone from Dilbert take a photo of me right now? Because I'm so embarrassed. I think I put it on the organization. And I would start like this. Okay, pick a pain point in the business. For us, it was recruiting. How are we going to solve that? We're going to solve that by being a great place. Is that important to all of you? Okay, what are you going to do? I think we have to be real enablers and pushers and drivers as a function and get them to own that and drive that and show them how it's going to solve a business problem. You know, if you can connect that, you're usually going to get that. This is my issue with diversity as an approach that I work with a lot of organizations really concerned about this. And I'm usually not the guy they want to hire in HR because I usually don't help with any of the diversity numbers. But I go in and I say, the way not to get a diversity agenda across is by guilting people into it. Well, you got to do this. It's just the right thing, man, or it's just wrong. And people are not going to want to, buy our product if we're not a diverse company. I think that's the wrong conversation. I think the right conversation is we're going to be amazingly successful if we have a more diverse organization with more ideas, more connectivity to people of different backgrounds. That's the right way to go about it. So I would try to do that. If it's a push, if you have a push on the culture, you can either call me and I'll try to give you some motivational ideas, or you got to stand back and show them the consequences of not investing in that. Okay, yes, question up here. Last question, sorry. Yep, make it a good one. Oh, sorry. Mm-hmm. Okay, you way shot it out of the park on that one. Great question. All right, so as you're getting bigger and you're worried about cultural dilution and, how do you keep everyone connected and everyone focused and everyone aligned on the same thing when, so many, things are, happening in locations in different parts of the business. And here is an approach that we took that I think that I would highly recommend. We suffer from what I call digital device addiction right now. Is anyone here feeling a buzz in their pocket going, oh my God, I need to look at that thing? I think that the way that I would approach it is by creating a community experience that's live. And what we did at LinkedIn was we said one day a week or every other week, but we try to do every week if we could, we're going to get the employees together for 50 minutes and we're going to share the most important things in the organization. What's happening with sales, what's happening with new products, what's happening in the competitive landscape, with marketing, with new hires, with anything that's of relevant. We did not send, mainly because Jeff was a perfectionist. It took him 3 days to compose an email, and he hated email. I think he still does. We never sent organizational updates or things of import to the organization. We poured them right through one community experience, which was the town hall meeting we had. And we tried to make that special, tried to make it fun, we tried to make it engaging. And we didn't make it required that everyone had to go there, but if you didn't go there, you didn't know what was going on. And we tried the whole food thing and drinks and so forth. But we had a great asset in that our CEO was incredibly talented in front of a group. And we had some funny people on our exec staff meeting when he was traveling that would fill in. And so I think that's one of the things to try to get out of this. I have too much information. I'm not going to read that email, especially from corporate, and it's 3 pages long. That you keep it tight, keep it live, and you get all the texture and context that's really there to deliver. We have a real opportunity right now to help build community in an environment that's increasingly under attack by people looking at a device more than they are another human being. And I think that's probably the most under-recognized challenge that we have today is that people are looking at something, not someone, as much. And if you want to build trust, you want to build magic, I think it comes from looking at someone, and the more you can architect that, the better. Hey, thank you, all of you, for joining this session. I hope it was helpful for you, and enjoy the rest of the time here. Thank you.